Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas.
I'm Heidi Henry,
And I'm Murray Briel.
talking to you today from the edge of the Great Red Divide.
So, we've been seeing a lot of misunderstanding of definitions being thrown out there. A lot of connotations that
Well,
make terms that shouldn't be become dirty words.
right.
We've been seeing that the squad has been attacked.
Well, the squad, the four congresswomen of color that were told to go back to their home when they live here and they're citizens, Lindsey Graham came out the other day and said, those communist women. And I thought, Lindsey, you say that and you don't even understand the meaning of the word, because that has nothing to do with what they're trying to do. And I'm going to make my 4-H analogy, because I was a 4-H'er and I know you weren't. But in 4-H, we always say to make the best better. It's our motto. It's what we do. As a horse trainer, am always trying to make my best riders, even my worst riders, the better.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that saying. That's very cool.
So when they come out and they talk about the issues in our country, the holes in our democracy, the problems that we're facing, the things that we can't seem to overcome, it's not because they hate it here. It's because they want to make this wonderful, best country on the planet better. That's all they want to do.
Thank you. The frustration is that, when I can't even imagine being a woman of color and being attacked that way. Being a woman and being attacked is enough.
Terrifying.
But the whole point is if you don't like America, it was founded on dissent. It was founded on not liking things. We've culturally moved so much through dissent, through
Right.
challenging the status quo.
Dissent-
That's how our country continues to grow. That is a
Dissent
liberal
brings-
democracy.
Right. Dissent brings change. Dissent brings awareness to issues that we wouldn't ordinarily know about.
If we didn't love our country, we would take your advice
Yeah.
and go home. But we love this country.
Right.
So don't tell us that we're non-patriots. They don't like this. Lindsey Graham said, it's obvious that these women don't care about their country.
If they didn't care, they wouldn't have run for office. If they didn't care, they wouldn't
have been
put their-
elected by mandate. If they didn't care, they wouldn't be fighting for what's right.
They wouldn't have put their lives in danger, because these women are in danger right now because of the rhetoric from the far right. A man was arrested the other day for saying he was ready to kill one of them. And the
There
thing
have
is,
been 3 arrests for Ilhan Omar since Wednesday. 3 men have been arrested threatening to kill her.
3 men.
3 men, 3 arrests.
And the one thing I wanted to point out, Murray, is whenever this rhetoric starts, it's always against women. It was against Hillary Clinton. It was against Nancy Pelosi. It's against these 4 women of color. There's no chance and no horrible things said like that are vindictive and potentially dangerous and deadly against men, and especially not any white men. And that I find to be absolutely terrifying. The United States is already the 10th most dangerous place on the planet for women right now, and to ramp up that rhetoric is horrifying.
So you just hit on another term that we've started to see being tossed around a lot more, and that's nationalism.
Nationalism, yeah.
Nationalism. So, we were talking a lot about racist and what's not racist. And, screw the semantics. You know in your gut what it says. If you choose to be okay with that, then own your shit. Don't pretend that you're not.
Right.
If you don't choose to be okay with that, then stand up and say it.
Yes.
And those tensions are, as they're increasing, this word nationalist is coming out. And that actually fits, I believe, more than a racist. I think that is nationalism is a more acceptable way to say a white male-controlled government
Patriarchy.
society, and everything else is substandard to that.
Well, and we talk about conservatism in that same breath, right? That we're conservative nationalists. and or at least a certain segment of it is. And the thing is conservative values want to harken back to the 50s and 60s and early 70s and put the onus on how things used to be. Well, things used to be that way because we had strong unions and a strong middle class, and we had soldiers returning from World War II that started families and had a lot of the GI Bill and a lot of other benefits out there that helped build that middle class. But it wasn't good for everyone. It wasn't good for women. I think about Barbara Billingsley, who was Beaver Cleaver's mom, with her shirtwaist dress and her little string of pearls, and she was one of the lowest paid actors on that show, and yet when she left the set, had to go home to a nanny and a housekeeper to be able to take care of that fantasy that people think is what happened in the 50s. And, women couldn't have credit cards, we couldn't own property by and large. There were so many things we couldn't do, and women weren't fulfilled. It's not real fulfilling being a housewife. I'm not very domestic myself, and I'm so glad nobody scores me on how I keep my house how I cook.
I have a lot. My mom is an older mom. She's in her mid-80s, and we have cookbooks, and they used to, with products, they used to give a lot of cookbooks
Jell-O,
out. They used to give
mayonnaise,
Jiffy, Skippy, and we also have these magazines, these the home magazines, and just even Holy Lord, the instruction manual for products from them, and my mom gave them to me, and they're priceless, and they are so sexist, so misogynistic. They
horrible.
I will bring them in one day, and I'll share them online. Some of the best ones.
It's so difficult for me to look back at that
and that was
time.
What, 70 years ago, and 60 and 60 years ago,
50 years ago, 40 years ago, and when we paint murals on walls. And in Streeter, they are beautiful, and in Ottawa, they are beautiful, but they harken back to a time where things weren't beautiful for everyone. They weren't beautiful if you were in the LGBTQ community. We had the Stonewall riot in 1969, which gave us the Pride Parade. It took that long. 69, 79, 89, 99, 2009, 2019, 50 years to barely get a foot in the door. If you're LGBTQ, you're still facing such huge discrimination. It's unconscionable that people have the right to discriminate against somebody just for how God made them,
That brings us to liberal democracy.
Okay.
So liberal democracy, this is where all of those conservatives, you can forward this clip. We'll take a little clip of this.
Okay.
So you can share it around and
because when you talk about this, especially those of you that love your Second Amendment rights, you want a liberal democracy.
And that is so the tenets, the definitions, liberal democracy is pretty much an accepted term across the world in most developed countries. Mm-hmm. It's some sort of mixed economy. It is widespread political participation by adult citizens, including members of minority groups that include racial, ethnic, religious, linguistic, and economic minorities.
Yes.
Secret ballots and frequent regular elections. The first one maybe some of the conservatives might not go for.
I'm sure they're like, clutching their pearls.
Right, maybe we should re-record or cut that and put it at the end when they actually hear the other ones.
Here you go.
Secret ballot, frequent regular elections, broad freedom to form parties, to be active in politics, to present their views as a form of government.
Yep.
And form a government. Governments that can alter, interpret, and enforce laws within limits.
Yes,
according to the majority. Mm-hmm. The majority's preference. Effective guarantees of individual and minority rights in areas of free speech, press, conscience, religion, assembly, and equal treatment in front of the law.
Wow.
And limited, here's where y'all conservatives are going to be like, yeah. Limited governmental powers, which are kept in check by separation of powers.
Uh-huh.
So that would be the executive, the judicial, and the congressional.
Right.
Which is the basic tenets of our nation, which we stay and fight for and don't leave. So all of you have argued at some point that all the conservatives know that these are good things.
Right.
Because when the Second Amendment kids, when the NRA kids get all squealy that you're taking my guns, that's a civil rights. You're a minority. We don't do that. You have protections. So these things do apply to certain classes as well. We just don't think about it that way. So
we don't think about it that, but it's the liberals that are going to fight for your Second Amendment right. You will never hear a liberal say, "And the Second Amendment." Never.
No.
Never.
Nope.
And don't call us libtards either, because we're fighting for your rights just as much as we're fighting for other people's rights.
And I think that the point that I'm trying to make is that the definition of a liberal democracy is the definition of our country. It's the definition of our Constitution. It is the foundation of everything. And if you think that because we dissent or disagree, that's guaranteed. And it's guaranteed that we have the right to fight, to form a new party, to move forward, to try to change things. So don't tell us, because that's the foundation. That's what a lot of conservative, far righters cling to and wrap themselves in the flag and the Constitution. Well, that is exactly what you're arguing we shouldn't be doing. Right. So think about it that way before you get all...
So let's go on and talk about socialists. We know that socialism has never worked in its bare essence, ever. And there is not a Democrat on the planet that is fighting for socialism.
It's a mixed, there's such a thing as a mixed economy. Mm-hmm. It is, and that is what almost every developed nation is. Almost every nation is a mixed economy. Even China is a mixed economy.
A mixed economy means you have people of several different economic classes. Right?
No, a mixed economy means that it is partially it's not supported by one complete entity.
Okay, never mind.
So it's not capitalism.
Right.
A mixed economy is keeping capitalism in check and supporting services and things for the country. And you could be, in receiving different funding and programs from different sources.
Social
is
programs.
A mixed economy.
Yeah.
And that's the definition. Every freaking country has some sort of mixed economy.
Right.
Even China has a mixed economy. Okay. It's a part of
right, because they have social programs there in China, and think of any country. They all have an education system. They all have garbage collection. They all have sewer and wastewater, sewer and water programs.
But you're right. But I got sidetracked for a sec. Let's talk
too.
back to socialism.
Okay.
So there is no country out there that is socialist. It hasn't worked. Socialism is on the scale in the middle between Marxism,
right,
and communism.
Right.
They're all foundation. They're not Marxism. They all came out from Karl Marx.
Right.
And socialism is in the middle between communism and... Okay. I'll find out.
Yeah.
I'll find out what it is. Anyway, so socialism, the definition is...
To have a country where all the goods and services are like pulled in a pot, and then the government decides who gets what. Like, if I was a doctor, I would get the same amount as somebody who was a farmer, as the same amount as somebody who repairs cars, as the same amount as somebody who coaches soccer. The government just gives it all back to you. Well, you know what? That doesn't make anybody want to go to work or work hard or do any more than they barely have to in order to survive. And the problem with that is that we've seen socialist countries like Venezuela fail over and over and over and over again. There just isn't a place for it. So it doesn't work.
Yeah, no one wants a socialist economy.
Now, I don't want to go to work every day and get paid the same amount for my efforts as somebody else, because I have a different skill set and I've earned that skill set and that income level, right? So if you have socialism, everybody's making $15 an hour. Everybody's making $70,000 a year. Everybody's making $100,000
Everybody
a year.
has the same house. Everybody has
Right.
the same.
It's a
absolute the sameness across the board.
It's a
and that
cookie
doesn't
cutter
exist.
lifestyle. And can you imagine trying to stick a cookie cutter lifestyle into the United States? We can't agree on the same kind of car to buy.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wouldn't
So
want it that way.
socialism is not what the Democrats are about, nor is it about anybody else, and it's become a bad word. And you know what? But that's not nearly as bad of a word.
Wait, Marie. It's because they're confusing socialism with social programs. Social programs like garbage collection and streets and sanitation and public education and health care. We are short on mental health care like crazy in this country right now. Talk to somebody who's got a relative in the nursing home right now and the battle they go through just to keep their loved one from getting dehydrated. I mean, that's huge because our social programs are broken. They're not working.
You can go into DCFS in Illinois, which is a hot mess, and
Yes.
it is. I mean, we need, but those are also a part of what is in place for this nation. And those were put in place a long time ago. And they have pulled us out of so many hard times. They have given so many people an opportunity. And it's all working together. You may not need it right now, but when you retire,
You may need it.
you may need it.
So social programs, not socialism. They're two completely different things. Social programs get your kids on the bus and to school every day. They get your roads plowed. They make sure that that people collect Medicare. They make
That
sure
the
that
highway you drive and the bridge you cross doesn't crumble.
hello gas tax here in Illinois. Thank God for that because our bridges and roads are
Literally
terrible.
are falling apart.
Yeah.
I swear I'm going to get pulled over one day on my way here. I take 55 to 80 and then 80 west. And that stretch between
Oh, the potholes are
55
terrible.
and halfway past Minooka, Lisbon Road, it's like playing Mario Kart.
Right.
You
Because the
know?
roads are so bad. And you know, a little segue here. We've had the last 4 governors have put this on the next governor to try to get it done. So we finally get a gas tax increase that'll cost each driver about $100 a year. I say it's worth it. I'm tired of dodging
And
potholes.
the damage that gets caused, Steve was taking an off-ramp up north.
Yeah.
And he was getting off the off-ramp to go to work, blew out a tire, bent the rim, broke the tie rod, like a $1,300
Yep.
fix. And the guy who was right behind him hit the same thing and blew out 2 tires.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
See?
yeah. And so that was, instead of being $100.
Every time I hear somebody boo-hoo about the gas tax, I think, oh yeah, you know, how many tires
Right.
can you afford to buy every year? You know, I've gone through several on Pearl, my black car, this year.
So, you know, what we're trying to say is that we're a mixed economy.
Yeah.
So we're not socialists. Social programs are good.
Good.
They're necessary.
Yeah.
They keep us safe. So let's not get those confused.
With the next big one, the big C word, communism. Now, those of us who are old enough like me remember the USSR. We remember when Russia was the bad guys, when everybody had the same...
And even then, communism existed, but the true definition of communism, economic-wise,
Yeah.
was not. Okay, so
Because
the
you-
true
because you have-
definition of communism
Yeah.
is elimination of class war
Right.
and societal socioeconomic differences.
Right.
Total elimination of it. Everything is owned. Everyone owns everything. So everyone shares in all the common resources. So whatever you do, it's a pool and everybody pulls from it. And that doesn't work.
Because we
At
found
all.
out in the USSR that the people at the very top were just collecting all the money and spending it foolishly on things for themselves. A lot of them, the oligarchs, were spending their money here in the States and became friends with our current administration, communism doesn't work. It's never worked. Marxism has never worked. It's a theory that would work if people had no ego. But your ego is often larger than your ambition, and your ego is going to take over and make you want to make more.
Power and greed. Power and greed. The two things that drive almost everything. No, forget that. And that brings us to, okay, on the flip side of communism, it seems like conservatives are always very proud to claim they're capitalists. Should we learn about what capitalism means?
Ready to curl your hair?
Exactly. It's based on private ownership, and that means production and operation for profit.
Yeah.
Everything for profit. So it also includes, capitalism includes private property, capital accumulation, wage labor, voluntary exchange, price system, competitive markets. So
capitalism, why we had the economic collapse in '08. Does anybody remember that?
Oh, and wasn't Trump just assaulting his own department, Treasury, for not lowering rates more?
Yes.
So we would have another catastrophic freaking collapse. And the regulation that has been rolled back, which is not even the companies, right? Some of the companies who are like, we don't want that.
Do you think Wells Fargo does not want to go back? And I'm just going to touch on capitalism as it affected my neighborhood, because I had some dear, sweet older neighbors, Harry and Pat, that lived next door to us for years, about over 15 years. And we were very attached to Harry and Pat. And Harry and Pat were offered through capitalism an interest-only loan on a house they almost paid off. Harry first had his knees replaced. Then he had a quintuple bypass. Then we were having spaghetti suppers to try to help save their home. They lost their home. And watching them go through that was probably one of the most painful things I've ever experienced in my life. And it wasn't me. My home had been paid for. But watching this little old couple go from their home to subsidized housing because of capitalism was just wrong. They didn't need a 125% interest-only loan on a bubble. And that's what you get when you allow people whose only goal in life is to make as much money off of you as possible, as the law allows. You end up with horror stories. And if your life wasn't touched by the '08 collapse, you are so lucky, because I know so many people that lost everything.
Yeah, absolutely. The predatory lending, the lack of regulation, the buying and selling of loans and cheap bonds together, and not knowing where those mortgages, it was a nightmare. Well, so we're taking regulation. Yeah, it's a good idea. Let's take that away. How on any flippin', which leads us to, capitalism is not all bad. It's mostly bad.
Capitalism can be very beneficial when it's regulated. When people like my neighbors, Harry and Pat, and Harry died, and he had another heart attack, and I think it was the stress and the heartbreak of losing his home. And but the whole thing is capitalism with good regulation is a good thing. Capitalism with unbridled, allowed to run free, causes a collapse like '08. And we're headed there again. We are on a weird bubble.
Not to mention the bees and the scientists and pesticides and everything. We can't even.
We can't even go into deregulation right now.
You know what that brings us to? Another word, and that's fascism. Can you say fascism? Okay.
What is fascism, Marie?
Well, fascism is a delightful form of right-wing authoritarianism.
Authoritarianism. We left, my ancestors left England to avoid authoritarianism by the Church of England.
Oh, that's not even the word we're talking about.
Yeah. Back in 1649.
So it is also characterized by dictatorial power,
Oh, wonder who that sounds like.
forced suppression of
Can you see
opposition,
this?
forced suppression of opposition,
Yeah.
strong regimentation of society and of the economy. And it first arose in the 20th century with World War One.
Well, we've had authoritarianism clear back through the Dark Ages, but as far as becoming a popular name for, fascism was the name given to authoritarianism. So, it is a modern time because that's what was going on in Russia, in Tsarist Russia at that time. And the thing is that didn't end well either, did it?
No.
Ask anybody that was part of the family that was shot to death. So, in Russia, the Tsar and his wife and all their children.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so.
And yeah, that was all because he was ordained from, the church, and then Rasputin came in, and we could talk. I like that.
Yes.
The czars. It's really interesting, and it does kind of apply to today because it shows how that system of government didn't work, how the oligarchies formed. I mean, it's a really, really interesting part of history.
Could we talk about my favorite word that needs a definition? My
Yes,
very favorite word.
ma'am.
Can we talk about progressivism?
Yay!
Progressivism, in its bare description, is thinking forward. And Murray, I told you that my family, another thing you would love to do, we're planning to go to the Farm Progress Show at the end of August.
Yep.
In Decatur, Illinois, because it's a Henry not to be missed function. And we love geeking out at the Farm Progress Show. We really, truly do. Because farmers love progress. We want to know how to plant better, how to manage better, how to yield better, how to harvest better, how to sell better, how to treat weeds and fungus and everything else.
How to make the better best.
Right.
Like 4-H teaches
Right. We are progress.
Moving forward.
Listen, I would not want to be plowing with a big Belgium horse, and a one-bottom plow, ladies and gentlemen, because that progress has brought us great big tractors and major tillage. We don't want to go back. That's progressivism, is to go forward, to embrace the future because of the better yield it will bring us.
Okay, and here's the definition of progressive. Happening or developing gradually or in stages.
Yes.
Proceeding step by step.
Right.
Group of or person favoring or implementing social reform or new ideas.
New ideas.
Social reform or new ideas. You conservatives cannot even say that you wouldn't apply to that because you're trying to change things in your favor. So technically,
but
they're progressive.
Well, but in their favor, Murray, we can't live in the past, right? We cannot live in the past. We cannot go back to the 50s or 60s or early 70s. The only thing we can do is go forward, embrace the future, plan for the best future we can have for this country, for our children, for our grandchildren, for our planet, for our survival. Because right now, when you're talking about what are you conserving? We can't be saying we're conserving morality anymore, given the president we have. We can't say we're preserving the economy anymore because we're not preserving the economy for everyone, just the top 10% of the 1% right now. We can't.
Increasing the wealth inequality, which increases the nationalism, which
Right.
causes them to retain power and allows them to become more authoritarian daily.
But when they went after Bill Clinton for his affair with Monica Lewinsky, and Bill's a dirty dog. We've talked about this. We talked about that, and I remember them saying at that time, how am I going to explain this to my kids? We have to be part of the moral majority. Every single one of those old white men is part of the moral majority. We're probably the most immoral people on the planet. They made Bill Clinton look like a Boy Scout as far as morality goes. And given family values and morality, given the president we have, they can never claim that again. So what are you conserving? You're conserving deregulation of things that will harm our planet. You're conserving...
You're not conserving anything.
You're not conserving...
You're exploiting everything. Conservative
Right.
equals exploitation.
It is, in this case, severe exploitation. Severe. You're not conserving art. You're conserving a way of life that is unsustainable given the economy, given the ecology, the planet, given...
It's all about power control and greed.
Well, power control and greed. So instead, the reason I am a progressive, the reason that I'm part of the Bull Moose Party from Teddy Roosevelt, so I'm going to go back even further, so that's your homework assignment, look up the Bull Moose Party. The things that attracted me to being to the left of the Democratic Party is the fact that we can't straddle middle ground, and we cannot look over our shoulder and plan backwards. We have to look forward and plan into the future. We have all of the things at our fingertips to go forward boldly without fear into a brilliant future.
So the next time someone equates progressive with, socialist, communist,
fascism.
And they haven't gone there yet. They haven't gone there yet, but we know on the other side that's what we think is going on. But hey.
Wait. Or Antifa.
Oh my God, yeah, no. But the next time you're talking about the other side, you have a better idea of the terms and what they really mean. And like we said, you know what, guess what? A liberal democracy, which is what everyone wants, is our Constitution.
Yeah.
Even on the other side, it gives you some ammunition to use those words and try to get through.
To use them correctly. The
or
dictionary
to just,
is your friend.
Troll or torment. I'm not advocating anything like that, but if you want to DM me,
Yeah.
a couple people.
Well, the thing is that you don't have to be a Mr. or Mrs. Know-It-All, right? But you should know the platform that you're talking from. And if you're talking from, I want to protect my rights to gun ownership, then you're talking about liberal policy. You honest to God are. And if you're talking about going back to the 1950s, you're talking about an unrealistic goal set out by the conservatives. Totally unrealistic. We can't go back. We should be looking at 2050. We should be looking at 2150. We can't go back. And our country is very, very young. And if we look at the first 250 years of let's say England.
Oh yeah,
it's not the same country it was.
Right? No, and you're absolutely right. But we just want you to know that here's what these definitions are. Here's where we are. Progressive is good. Forward. Next time somebody slanders it with something, you can be like, no, technically socialism is blah 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 blah. Whatever I said it was.
And socialism is not social programs.
And it will totally give you some ammunition, maybe some information you didn't have before.
Or maybe if you're part of one of our red followers, you'll understand where we're coming from.
Right. And maybe sharing that information might make someone go, what? And think twice. Sometimes it's a different approach. We're not going to hit people over the head and say, we want the environment good or blah, blah, blah. That's not going to work because people are going to buckle down. But when you say, hey, this is actually what it means. Do you believe those things? Oops. Oh, so do I. Haha.
Well, and if anything else, your takeaway should be that we're all in here to make the best better. We're all in here to make this country the very best it possibly can be, and to be better than we are at this moment in time.
To move forward. And that involves change. It involves struggle. As we talked about throughout history, that is
strife.
Why our country is what it is. So dissent is
change.
American, and if you try to say leave, you're just foolish because you don't understand the entire foundation of this nation.
Right. I think about my relatives that founded Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And the fact that if they hadn't been rebels, if they hadn't wanted to create strife, if they hadn't wanted to leave and make their lives better, they never would have come here.
So we want to say thank you so much. Guys, if you like us, please like, subscribe, forward, share with your friends. You can see us on YouTube. You can see us on Buzzsprout, all of the social media formats. I'm going to figure out Instagram, darn it. If anybody knows, let me know. At Heartland, MAMAS. Any way you can reach us, please reach out. Let us know. We have a debates coming up. We have some exciting things coming up. We've got a road trip coming up, which we'll tell you about soon. But we wanted to say
and a drag
thank you for listening, and a drag show. So thank you for listening, and please, please reach out to us.
Bye.